The night was heavy with rain, the wind howling through the jagged edges of the ancient forest. On its edge stood a weathered wooden house, creaking as if whispering secrets. Inside lived 5 siblings, 1 brother and 4 sisters. Their lives seemed ordinary on the surface, but anyone looking closer would sense a subtle darkness, a family touched by something beyond the mortal realm. Rohan, the eldest, sat in the basement with his 4 sisters. The warm glow of a single lamp flickered across the damp stone walls, shadows stretching like restless spirits. In his hand, he held a dusty old tome filled with strange symbols. "Tonight I'll teach you a little black magic," Rohan said, smirking. "Black magic?" Era, the youngest sister, laughed. "Rohan, that stuff isn't real." "Exactly," Rohan replied. "It's all just stories, just for fun." The basement was alive with laughter and teasing, the kind that only siblings can share. The 4 sisters, Era, Nura, Leia, and Mara, sat in a circle around him. A small candle flickered, casting dancing shadows across their faces. Rohan began reading a chant in a sing-song voice, intentionally exaggerated to make them laugh. "By the moon, by the blood, by the forgotten wolf." Era rolled her eyes. "Stop it, Rohan. This is childish." But Rohan continued, enjoying the performance. Then the air shifted. A cold wind swept through the basement, extinguishing the candle and lamp. The shadows lengthened unnaturally. "Mara?" Nura's voice trembled. Mara had frozen in place, her posture rigid, neck bent at a strange angle. Her eyes glowed a silvery, moonlit white. "Mara? Are you okay?" Rohan asked. No answer. Mara stared at them, and then a guttural wolf-like growl escaped her lips. Nura screamed. Leia tried to flee, but it was too late. The basement temperature plummeted. Mara, no, the thing inside her, collapsed to the ground, bones cracking with inhuman sounds. Within seconds, her shape began to change. Her limbs elongated unnaturally, fingers spreading into clawed shapes. Her face twisted, half human, half shadowy wolf. Fangs gleamed in the dim light. Before Rohan could react, she lunged. Leia vanished. Nura screamed as Mara's claws scraped across the floor, barely missing her. Only Rohan and Nura remained. He grabbed Nura's hand. "Follow me. There's a tunnel beneath the storage room. Crawl." The wolf tore at the door, wood splintering under its strength. Rohan pushed Nura into the crawlway. She crawled desperately, her tiny body trembling. Rohan confronted the wolf, wielding a metal rod. The creature stopped, tilting its head unnaturally. Then, in a hollow, eerie whisper, a voice spoke from within. "You shouldn't fight me, brother." Rohan froze. It was Mara's voice. The wolf vanished into the shadows. Nura was left lying on the cold stone floor, her body broken, silent. She slipped into a coma instantly. Rohan dragged her to the hospital, heart pounding, mind numb. 2 sisters lost, 1 trapped in eternal sleep, and 1 transformed into something inhuman and forever lost in the dark. 1,000 years later, a modern hospital tower stood where the old forest once spread. Inside a private room, a young woman lay motionless, Nura, unchanged by time, her body suspended in a coma that had lasted a millennium. A man entered the room. It was Rohan, still alive, unchanged by the centuries. His features were sharp but haunted. Age had not touched him. Immortality, a gift or curse, had kept him as he was. "Hello, Nura," he whispered softly. "Will you ever wake? I've waited 1,000 years." Suddenly, a small figure appeared beside the bed, a dwarf barely 2.5 feet tall, with a carved staff and sharp, knowing eyes. "You are Rohan," the dwarf said. "The last of the Amaran bloodline." "Who are you?" Rohan asked, wary. "I am here to tell you the truth about your family. You were never ordinary. The wolf who took your sisters, it was not chance. Someone cursed your bloodline long ago." Rohan's pulse quickened. "Tell me, who?" The dwarf's lips curled into a thin, sinister smile. "One day you will find out, but your journey begins now." Rohan's eyes narrowed. Somewhere deep inside, the spark of vengeance ignited. 1,000 years had passed, yet the memory of that night burned brighter than ever. The hospital room was silent except for the soft hum of machines monitoring Nura's eternal sleep. Moonlight filtered through the tall windows, casting long, pale shadows across the floor. Rohan's eyes never left his sister's motionless form. 1,000 years of watching, waiting, hoping, and yet she remained trapped in that fragile body as if frozen in time. The dwarf shifted, stepping closer. His small stature belied the immense weight in his presence. His eyes glinted like polished onyx. In a low, gravely voice, he began. "You do not know your family's true history, Rohan. You are not merely the last to survive. Your bloodline has been touched by a darkness that predates even your memory. Your sister who became the wolf, she is not an accident." Rohan clenched his fists. I've spent centuries searching for her. For all of them. Who did this? Who cursed my family? The dwarf let out a slow, bitter laugh. It is not a who. It is a power. A ritual older than any human memory. Your family, your lineage, it carries the mark of ancient black magic, woven into your blood the moment your ancestors first touched the city gates. Rohan's brow furrowed. City? Are you speaking of the fairy gates? The tunnels beneath the old forests. The dwarf nodded, tapping the tip of his staff against the polished floor with a soft thunk. Yes, those places are gateways, Rohan. And your family, for generations, drew their strength and weakness from those passages. Your ancestors were gifted and cursed. Your immortality, your sisters, everything is tied to that ancient blood. A chill ran through Rohan's spine. 1,000 memories, 1,000 years of pain, flashed before him. Mara's transformation, Leia and Era being devoured, Nura slipping into her eternal slumber, the countless nights he had sat beside her, waiting for a sign of life. He had thought he understood fate, but now, centuries later, he realized he had only been a pawn in a game far older than himself. And now? Rohan asked, voice tight. How do I fix it? How do I stop her? How do I end the curse? The dwarf's small frame straightened. You cannot undo what has been done. The wolf, she is beyond human now. She moves between shadows, between forms, bound to the curse. But there is a way to reclaim what was taken, or at least to challenge her. Rohan leaned forward, his eyes burning. Tell me. I will do whatever it takes. The dwarf waved his hand, summoning a faintly glowing map in the air between them. Ethereal lines traced across ancient forests, mountains and tunnels, marked with shimmering symbols only visible to those who carried the Amaran blood. The dwarf's voice was a whisper, though it seemed to echo through the entire room. Your journey will take you to places no human has walked for centuries. You will encounter beings of old magic, creatures, guardians and monsters. Some will test your mind, some your strength, and some, your very soul. The wolf that once was your sister now moves freely in these realms, hunting, waiting. If you fail, the bloodline ends with you. If you succeed, you may confront her and reclaim what remains. Rohan's jaw tightened. I am ready. Tell me where to begin. The dwarf leaned in closer, lowering his voice. There is a tunnel, forgotten by time. It lies beneath the ruins of the forest where your family once lived. It is where the city energy is strongest. Only those with your blood can survive within its depths. There you will find the first clue, an artifact left by your ancestors, one that can bind or weaken the wolf. Rohan's mind raced. He remembered the old forest, the ruins long since swallowed by wild overgrowth. He remembered the hidden tunnels, the ancient moss-covered pipes, the glowing runes carved into stone walls. The memories were faint, distorted by time, but he could feel their pull like whispers calling him home. The dwarf's eyes softened slightly, though the weight of his warning remained. Be careful, Rohan. The wolf is cunning. She is no longer your sister, but she remembers. She remembers everything you once were, everything you loved. And she hates you for it. Rohan's fists clenched again. The rage that had lain dormant for centuries surged within him. Immortality had not dulled his sense of justice. He would hunt her. He would face her. And he would end this curse once and for all, or die trying. The dwarf extended a tiny, gnarled hand, placing a small crystal vial into Rohan's palm. It glimmered faintly, swirling with a silvery mist. This is a key. It will guide you to the entrance of the tunnel, but it will not protect you once inside. Your wits, your blood, and your courage are your only safeguards. You have waited a millennium, now your journey begins. Rohan stared at the vial, the glowing mist reflecting in his eyes. Memories of Nura flashed before him, the sister trapped in 1,000-year slumber, the two sisters lost to Mara's wolf form, the pain, the guilt. Every emotion converged into one burning certainty. He would not fail. Not now, not ever. The dwarf stepped back, fading into the shadows of the hospital corridor as he whispered, Time is not on your side, Rohan. She is waiting. Alone, Rohan stood beside the hospital bed, his immortal heart pounding. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 1,000 years, the grief, the rage, and the purpose. The journey would be perilous. The wolf was out there, somewhere in the shadows, a predator of both flesh and memory. But Rohan would follow the trail, through tunnels, forests, and forgotten realms, until the curse that had stolen his family was finally confronted. He opened his eyes. Nura's hand lay still on the bed. Her soft, pale skin was untouched by time. Her breath was steady, machine-assisted, but alive. Rohan leaned down and whispered, I will find her, and I will bring her back. Outside, the night pressed against the hospital windows, dark and full of secrets. Somewhere far away, in the ruins of the forest and in the echoes of ancient tunnels, two amber eyes glimmered. The wolf remembered, and it was waiting. Rohan turned toward the door, clutching the crystal vial tightly. His first step would take him back to the forest, back to the forgotten tunnels, and into the heart of a darkness that had lasted a millennium. His quest had begun. The hospital room was always the same, silent, cold, and suspended somewhere between life and death. Machines blinked softly like tired fireflies, repeating their lonely rhythm in the dark. My sister, Arya, lay in the center of it all, untouched by time, unchanged for centuries. 1,000 years, 1,000 winters, 1,000 moons, and she was still asleep. I stood at the foot of her bed, my breath fogging the glass window behind me. Even though immortals do not age in the same way mortals do, emotion still leaves marks deeper than time ever could. My shoulders sagged under the weight of memories, of laughter, of flames, of claws, of screams. "Hey Arya," I whispered gently. "It's me again. Don't worry. I'm still here." Her face looked peaceful, almost angelic, nothing like the horror she had survived. She hadn't just been injured. She had been broken. Torn apart by our own sister, the one who had turned. Celine. The name itself felt cursed. I stepped closer, brushing a hand over Arya's cold fingers. Even after centuries, her skin was frozen stiff, as if every drop of warmth had been stolen the night Celine transformed. The curse had sealed her in this endless sleep, and no magic, black, white, forbidden, or divine, had been able to wake her. My heart tightened. It was my fault. If I hadn't been trying to impress them with black magic tricks, if I hadn't laughed at the idea of curses, if I hadn't opened that book, my chest burned with guilt that time refused to dilute. As I adjusted the blanket around her, I felt something, a faint tingling crawling under my skin. A whisper of energy, a shift in the air. She reacted. Her eyelids flickered. My breath caught. "Arya?" Her fingers twitched. The lights dimmed suddenly, humming with a strange pulse. A cold wind whipped through the room although the windows were closed. The machine beside her began to beep erratically. I leaned in close, my voice trembling. "Arya, can you hear me?" Her lips parted. Barely. Weakly. Like an ancient echo rising from the abyss. "She's coming?" My blood froze. Before I could respond, her body went still again. The machine steadied. The air normalized. Whatever force had awakened for that moment vanished just as quickly. I stumbled backward, heart slamming against my ribs. The curse had stirred. After 1,000 years of silence, something had changed. Something had awakened Celine. I rushed out of the hospital, night air slapping against my face like icy hands. The moon hung above like a pale, watchful eye. I had barely stepped onto the sidewalk when a voice croaked from behind a street lamp. "You shouldn't be wandering alone, immortal boy." I spun around. A dwarf stood there, barely 3 feet tall, wrapped in a cloak of moss and ash. His beard was braided with tiny bones. His eyes glowed like dying embers. He was not human. Not even close. "You," I whispered. "You were at the cemetery last year. And before that, during the blood moon eclipse." He chuckled, his teeth uneven and sharp. "I've been watching you much longer than that." My pulse quickened. "Why?" "Because your family," the dwarf said, leaning on a crooked wooden staff, "is not what you think they are." I frowned. "We're immortals. Cursed ones. Nothing more." "Immortality is merely a symptom," he replied. "Not the truth." I felt the ground tilt beneath me. "What truth?" He pointed a stubby finger at me. "Your bloodline was marked 1,000 years before you were even born. And the one who cursed your family is still alive." Cold sweat trickled down my neck. My mind raced. Marked? Before birth? Still alive? "Celine's transformation," the dwarf said, "was never an accident. Your sister wasn't possessed. She was chosen. The wolf curse runs through your family's spine like a buried serpent." My throat went dry. "Why would someone do that to us?" His eyes softened, almost pitying. "Because your lineage carries a power greater than magic, greater than curses, greater than life itself. If left unchecked, your family could shape the world." I swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" "What?" The dwarf laughed hoarsely. "Boy, I'm trying to save you." He limped closer, shadows twisting around him. "The wolf sister, Celine, has awakened from her slumber of centuries. She hunts. Again." I stiffened. "What triggered her awakening?" He tilted his head. "The same thing that stirred your sleeping sister today." My eyes widened. "Arya reacting means—" "Yes," he rasped. "The balance between life and curse is cracking. And when it cracks, the beast will return to finish what she began." I felt rage coil deep inside me, ancient and bitter. She killed 2 of my sisters. She put Arya in that state. I won't let her do any more. The dwarf nodded approvingly. "Good. You will need that anger. Because your journey begins tonight." "Journey?" I repeated. He raised his staff. A faint glow erupted from its tip, illuminating the dark street. "Follow the path into the hollow mountains," he said. "There you will find the Mirror of Crowthorn, the only artifact that can show you the origin of your curse." My breath hitched. "And what then?" "Then," the dwarf whispered, his voice dropping to a graveled whisper, "you will learn how to kill the wolf that cannot die." Before I could speak, he struck the ground lightly with his staff. In an instant, he dissolved into smoke, vanishing like a dying ember extinguished by the night. Only his final words lingered, echoing in my mind. "Find the mirror, or lose all your sisters forever." And with that, my quest began. The city felt quieter than usual as I walked back toward the hospital parking lot. Maybe it was the weight of the dwarf's words. Maybe it was the moon hanging low and heavy like a dying lantern. Or maybe something was stalking me. Every few steps I felt it, a presence, a breath, a cold whisper sliding down the back of my neck. But when I turned, the street remained empty. Still, immortals don't survive 1,000 years by ignoring instincts. And every instinct in my body screamed, "Run." So I did. I sprinted across the pavement, heart pounding with a rhythm I hadn't felt in decades. Not fear, something sharper. Something deeper. A primal warning buried in my bloodline. By the time I reached the parking lot, the air had grown thick with the scent of damp earth and something else. Wet fur. I froze. A shadow slipped behind the ambulance bay. A low growl vibrated through the concrete. My pulse stopped. "Celine," I whispered. A pair of glowing amber eyes flashed between the pillars, feral, ancient, aware. I stepped backward, barely moving. Those eyes tracked my every breath. Then, like smoke caught in wind, she vanished. Not ran. Not lunged. Vanished. A cold shiver ripped down my spine. She knew. She knew I had spoken to the dwarf. She knew the curse was awakening. She knew. I was coming after her. I jumped into my car and slammed the door shut. My hands shook against the steering wheel. "This is really happening," I muttered. "After all these centuries, it's starting again." I drove through the night, leaving the hospital lights shrinking behind me. Ahead lay the outskirts of the city, then forest, then mountains ancient and untouched. The farther I went, the more the modern world dissolved, peeling away until only wilderness remained. Hours later, at the edge of the hollow forest, the forest greeted me with a silence so deep it felt alive. Pines towered above, their black silhouettes swaying gently as if whispering secrets to the night. The map the dwarf had given me, burnt, torn, half-faded, led to a trail older than civilizations. I followed it with a lantern in hand, boots crunching over dead leaves. Every step deeper felt like stepping back in time. The air grew colder, the sky darker, the trees closer. At some point, I stopped hearing my own footsteps. Something else walked in rhythm with me. Right behind my left shoulder. I didn't turn. Turning meant acknowledging it. Fear gives creatures like her power. But my mouth moved on its own. Barely a whisper. "Celine, I know you're there." A breeze shifted behind me, warm, breath-like. "You can kill me," I said quietly, "but that won't stop me from finding the truth." The forest held its breath. Then, a hiss. Animalistic, but mixed with something painfully human. I finally turned. No wolf. But claw marks, fresh, deep, scarred the nearest tree trunk. For long slashes dripping sap like blood. A message. "I am watching." I forced myself forward, deeper into the forest. Hours passed. Maybe more. Time works differently around cursed places. It stretches, curls, loops back on itself like smoke. Just when exhaustion began to pull at my bones, the trees parted, revealing the entrance to the hollow mountains. A narrow canyon, walls jagged like broken teeth, swallowed the moonlight entirely. The smell of ancient stone and frozen wind seeped out like a warning. "This must be it," I whispered. But before I stepped inside, something crackled in the bushes. I spun, only to see glowing mushrooms illuminating the ground. They formed a perfect circle. A fey ward. A protection ring. A warning ring. Something had placed it here long before I arrived. I knelt and touched one. It shimmered and whispered a word in a language I hadn't heard since the 1100s. "Beware." A knot twisted in my stomach. "Okay," I breathed. "I get it. Deadly place. Point taken." I stepped through the canyon. Instantly, the temperature dropped. Frost bloomed across the rocks. The air grew thin, humming with strange vibrations. The dwarf's voice echoed in my head. "The Mirror of Crowthorn shows not reflections, but origins." I pressed forward until I reached a wide cavern illuminated by eerie silver-blue light. The source? A massive stone gate carved with wolves, howling, bleeding, transforming. At the center of the gate was a symbol. The symbol burned into our family's bloodline. A spiral made of fangs. My breath stilled. "This is real," I whispered. "Everything I feared, all of it." Then the gate rumbled. Dust fell. Rocks trembled. A low growl echoed from the cavern depths. The gate slowly cracked open, exposing an iron corridor drip pin. G with frost. I stepped toward it, and then froze. A whisper, a voice older than language, older than curses, slid across the cavern. "Come inside, little immortal. Your past awaits." My blood ran cold, but I stepped in anyway, because I had no choice. The iron corridor swallowed me whole. My lantern flickered, dimming as if the darkness pressed fingers around its flame. Frost clung to the walls, breathing with an unnatural rhythm. Every step echoed with a hollow metallic ring, like the place itself was listening. I touched the wall once. Instant regret. It pulsed beneath my fingers. Warm. Alive. I jerked my hand back. "This place isn't a cave," I whispered. "It's a living thing." The corridor led to a chamber so massive the ceiling disappeared into shadow. The air shimmered with cold light, and at the center stood a monolithic circular frame carved from black stone, 10 feet tall. Runes stitched across the surface, and inside it, mist. Thick, silver-white mist swirling like a storm trapped behind glass. The mirror of Crowthorn. My breath hitched as I approached. This relic existed in folklore older than the empire that once ruled these lands. A mirror that revealed how a curse was born. The dwarf's final words thundered in my mind. "Look into it only if you are prepared, because the truth will not spare you." I stepped closer, heartbeat steady, breath shallow. The mist shifted, spiraled, thickened, and then it cleared. What I saw wasn't a reflection. It was a memory. 1,000 years ago. The origin 1,000 years past. A forest. My family's ancestral village. Night wrapped everything like a shroud. I saw my sisters, all 5 of them, alive, laughing, full of fire and foolishness. Helena, the tallest, always the brave one. Celine, the quiet one, always observing. The twins, Mira and Lisa, inseparable as shadows. And Eva, my closest friend, my fiercest protector. I watched my younger self teaching them illusions, harmless sparks, tricks to make fire dance in their hands without burning. We're dangerous witches. Mira giggled, waving her glowing fingers. "There is no black magic," I told them, grinning. "Only stories to scare children." But then, the sky darkened. A chill slid through the memory. An ancient figure stepped from the trees, hooded, face veiled. Taller than any human. Skin pale as dying moonlight. And where footsteps touched earth, the soil withered. Eva noticed first. "Brother?" she whispered. "Something's wrong." The figure raised a hand and murmured in a language older than any living tongue. The wind twisted. The ground split. My sisters gasped as black smoke spiraled toward Celine, my quiet, gentle Celine, and wrapped around her throat like a leash. She convulsed, shrieked. Her bones cracked. Her eyes turned amber. Her body stretched, twisted. I felt the memory shake as if the mirror trembled under its own grief. Celine became the wolf. Not a wolf. A cursed wolf. A creature bound to defy. Yours will. She lunged and I forced myself to watch. I had to. She killed Mira first. One bite. One scream. Lisa tried to run, but Celine dragged her down into the leaves. Their blood soaked the earth. Their screams echoed like splintered glass. The hooded figure spoke again, words that wrapped around the curse like chains. "You shall hunger forever, for the blood of your own." Light exploded. The memory burned white. When the world reformed, only Eva and I remained alive. Eva wounded, barely breathing. Sister, fighter, heartbreak carved in her eyes. Then the mirror showed the final truth. That hooded figure, that monster who cursed our bloodline, turned toward me. I never forgot those eyes. They weren't human. They weren't divine. They were mine. His face shifted. Older. Colder. 1,000 years older. My heart stopped. "No," I whispered. "No, that's impossible." The cursed figure in the memory, the one who ruined my family, the one who cursed Celine, looked exactly like me. The mirror breaks. The mist shattered like glass, exploding outward with a deafening howl. The chamber trembled as if roused from a long dream. I stumbled backward, lungs heaving. "That wasn't me," I whispered. "It couldn't be me. I wasn't alive then. I wasn't." Footsteps echoed behind me. Slow, steady, deliberate. Every hair on my arms rose. I turned. A silhouette stood in the doorway. Human-shaped. Tall, but wrong. Because behind it, 2 amber eyes glowed in perfect stillness. The wolf, Celine. A growl vibrated the stone floor. She stepped forward, massive and ancient, fur black as midnight rain, breath cold as frostbite. But her eyes, those eyes, held intelligence. Rage. grief, and something worse, recognition. I backed up, palms slick with sweat. "Celine," I whispered. "I saw what happened. I saw everything. I swear whoever cursed you wasn't me." Her ears twitched. Her lips curled, revealing long, frost-tipped fangs. She stepped closer, closer, until her breath fogged against my chest. The chamber dimmed. The air hummed. And in a voice so hoarse it sounded scraped from stone, she whispered, "Liar." Her breath hit my chest like winter wind, cold enough to burn. Celine, my sister, or what was left of her, stood inches away. Her amber eyes glowed with old hunger, old grief, old rage. But beneath all that, something else flickered. A memory. A question. A wound. I raised my hand slowly. "Celine, listen to me. I'm not the one who cursed you. I just saw the memory." Her growl deepened, vibrating through the cavern floor. The shadows behind her shivered like black smoke, gathering, twisting around her legs as if the curse clung to her like a living thing. Her lips curled. Her voice, so faint and broken it barely qualified as sound, escaped again. "Liar." A shiver crawled up my spine. Not because of fear, but because she believed what she said. The mirror had shown me a man who looked like me, but older, colder, wrong. Deflection twisted through centuries. I swallowed hard. "Celine, please," I said, stepping back slowly. "If I wanted to hurt you, I would have done it long ago. I'm here to break the curse, your curse." She blinked. A long, slow blink. And for a heartbeat, the growling stopped. Her pupils widened. Her tail lowered. The fury in her eyes flickered. Then her body jerked violently, as if yanked by invisible chains. Her teeth snapped together. Her back arched. A howl tore from her throat, a scream trapped inside an animal's body. "Celine," I shouted, reaching forward. But she leapt back, slamming into the cavern wall. Black smoke wrapped around her like shackles. She clawed at it, snarling in agony. She wasn't attacking me. She was fighting something. Someone. The same someone who appeared in the mirror. The figure that looked like me. Her body convulsed, fur rippling. For a moment her shape flickered. Wolf. Woman. Wolf again. She lifted her head, tears glinting in her amber eyes. "Run," she rasped. My heart stopped. "Celine." Before I could finish, a violent blast of shadow erupted from her chest, throwing her backward into the darkness. She vanished inside the swirling black fog that pulled shut like a closing door. Silence swallowed the chamber. Then a voice, deep, ancient, resonant, rolled from the walls around me. "The time has come, child." I spun toward the sound, lantern trembling in my grip. The stone carvings across the cavern lit up one by one, wolves twisting in agony, humans transforming, runes bleeding light. Footsteps echoed behind me, but not Celine's. These were heavy, measured, human. A figure stepped out from behind the broken mirror archway. A man, cloaked in tattered black, skin pale as moonlit ice, hair the color of storm clouds, eyes cold, silver, ancient. He lifted his head slowly, and my chest caved in. It was him, the figure from the memory, the one who cursed Celine, the one who murdered my sisters, the one the mirror said looked like me. And now, up close, he didn't just resemble me, he was me. Or rather, what I would look like if I lived another 1,000 years soaked in darkness. My voice came out hollow. "Who are you?" The man smiled. A tired, broken smile, as if he'd been waiting centuries for this moment. "I am what you become," he said softly. "I am your future." My skin crawled. "No," he whispered. "No, that's not possible." He stepped closer, the frost beneath his boots cracking. "I am the one who cursed your sisters." His voice echoed, carrying ancient weight. "I am the one you've been hunting." He reached out a hand toward me. My hand mirrored exactly except older, cracked by time. "And I am the one you came here to meet." My breath locked in my throat. Time, memory, blood, curse, everything tangled, everything snapped. He leaned forward, silver eyes burning like dying stars. "I am your shadow, your mistake, your destiny." His voice dropped to a whisper colder than Eth itself. "I am the reason your sister became the wolf." The cavern trembled. My lantern flickered violently. "Why?" I choked. Why would you do this?" The man tilted his head, an eerie mirror of my own movements. "Because one day," he said, "you will understand that immortality demands sacrifices." I shook my head. "No, that's not true." He smiled, sad, almost sympathetic. It wasn't true, yet. Then he lifted his hand and snapped his fingers. The cavern exploded with darkness. Chains of shadow lashed out, coiling around my wrists and throat. I gasped, dragged to my knees. His footsteps echoed closer. He knelt before me, placing a cold hand on my cheek. "You cannot save Celine," he whispered. "You cannot break the curse." Then his voice deepened into something monstrous. "Because the curse begins with you." The shadows constricting me tightened, then snapped apart. I collapsed onto the stone floor, coughing. The chamber was empty. The man was gone. Celine was gone. Only the mirror of Crowthorne remained, and carved into its surface, fresh bleeding red, were 4 words. "You have been warned." The warning carved into the mirror glowed like hot iron. "You have been warned." The letters flickered, alive, pulsing before slowly cooling into dull stone. I stared at them, chest heaving, heart beating like a trapped animal. Warned about what? My future? My own twisted reflection? The curse that supposedly begins with me? No, there had to be more. A hidden piece. A missing truth buried beneath centuries of deception. I pushed myself to my feet, still shaking, the echoes of his voice clawing inside my skull. "I am what you become." I couldn't accept that. Wouldn't accept it. "Not me," I whispered. "Never." The cavern's cold breath wrapped around me. The air smelled like ancient stone and old blood. I lifted the lantern again. The room was bigger now, or maybe it always had been. The shadows seemed to stretch farther than before, curving into long hallways, disappearing into darkness. One of them whispered. Literally whispered. A soft, dragging sound like fingernails across frozen metal. I turned sharply. The tunnel on the left flickered with movement. Light, shadow, breath. Against all reason, I stepped toward it. The shadow shrank away as my lantern neared, as if afraid of the flame. The hallway wound deeper into the mountain until the stone changed, smooth, polished, covered in carvings that weren't human. Symbols spiraled across the walls like crawling vines. Crescent shapes. Wolves turning into humans. Humans turning back into wolves. Eyes, hundreds of eyes, carved in watching silence. I passed them all. After what felt like an hour, the corridor opened into a second chamber. Smaller, darker, colder. And in the middle of the room stood a stone coffin. Not human-sized. Bigger, longer, too long. My heart crawled upward into my throat. Please tell me this isn't what I think it is. The coffee. End lid was cracked open. Just an inch. Just enough. I leaned forward, and cold air rushed up from inside, carrying the scent of rotting leaves and fur soaked in storm water. And something else. A whisper. A voice I knew. "Brother?" My blood froze. I staggered backward, lantern shaking violently. "Celine?" Silence. I swallowed and stepped closer again, hand trembling as I reached for the edge of the coffin lid. "Celine, if that's you, please." I pushed the lid aside, and the coffin exploded with black smoke so thick and cold it burned my skin. I stumbled, coughing, lantern almost slipping from my hands. The shadows swirled upward like a storm, then collapsed into a shape. 4 legs, long fur, glowing eyes. But this wasn't Celine. This creature was bigger, older. Ribs protruding from stretched skin, teeth broken into jagged glass-like shards. A wolf. No, the first wolf. The original cursed beast. Its growl was deeper than thunder. I froze as it stepped forward, each breath dripping with frost. "Easy," I whispered. "I'm not your enemy." Its head tilted, and in its eyes, centuries of agony burned. Then a voice rumbled from its jaws, layered and distorted like thousands whispering at once. "Chosen." My heart stopped. Chosen for what? The beast lifted its enormous head, breath fogging like smoke. To end or become? A chill deeper than fear crept across my spine. End or become what? The creature's broken jaw opened wider. The cycle. It stepped closer. I tried not to flinch. "Your blood, the first and the last." "I don't understand." Its howl rolled through the room like a collapsing mountain. "The curse begins with you." My lantern flickered wildly. "No," I shouted. "I didn't curse anyone. I didn't exist back then. I had nothing to do with it." The beast lowered its head until its cold muzzle touched the floor. "You did." A crack formed in the stone beneath it, not earthquake-like but deliberate, as if something inside the mountain stirred. The beast turned its head toward the crack. "He waits." My breath shortened. "The man who looks like me? He's here? Always." Then the beast lifted its head again, staring into my soul with hollow, ancient eyes. "You cannot fight what you become." I felt my voice shake. "I won't become him." The beast blinked once, and then the entire cavern shook violently. Stone cracked. Dust rained from above. A roar, deep, inhuman, echoed from somewhere far beyond the chamber. The first wolf turned toward the sound, fur bristling, claws scraping the floor. "Is that? He comes?" The ground split open. Shadows spilled from the crack like blood from a vein. The beast snarled, backing up. I stumbled toward the hallway. But before I could escape, a hand, cold and skeletal, shot out from the darkness and grabbed my ankle. I screamed, falling to the stone floor. The shadows rose, and a voice I knew too well whispered up through the crack. You cannot run from yourself. The hand tightened. My vision blurred. Brother. The night pressed in heavier than before, as if the forest itself had grown aware of Rowan's presence. Every tree seemed to lean inward, every branch bowed with an ancient memory too old to speak out loud. The broken mirror glowed faintly behind them, abandoned in the wet moss like something breathing. Rowan hadn't looked back since he walked away from it. He didn't want to see his own stolen reflection staring at him again. A cold breeze curled along his spine, whispering through the darkness, "You don't belong here anymore." Rowan forced himself forward. Mira stayed just behind him, holding a branch aside so it wouldn't snap back into his face. More than once, her eyes drifted toward him with a mixture of worry and something heavier, fear that she was trying hard to hide. "Rowan," she finally said, voice low. "You're shaking." "I'm fine," he lied. "No, you're not." He stopped, breathing hard. "Mira, what did you see in that mirror? Don't say nothing. I know you saw something." Mira looked down. "I saw you, but not you. It was like the forest had borrowed your shape. Like a second version of you, except darker." Rowan swallowed. "Did it smile?" She nodded slowly. His stomach dropped. That thing in the mirror had smiled at him too. But the smile hadn't been mocking, no, it had been inviting. As if it wanted him to step closer. As if it wanted him inside. Mira stepped closer and squeezed his arm. "Whatever it was, we're still together. Until we break this curse." Rowan tried to return the gesture, but his hand trembled. "Yeah, together." A wolf howl unfurled in the distance, long, rising, and layered with something that did not belong to any living creature. It sounded almost like words stretched into a scream. Mira flinched. "That wasn't normal." "No," Rowan agreed. "It wasn't." The two continued deeper into the woods. The trees grew denser, the roots thicker, twisting like veins across the forest floor. The moon vanished behind drifting clouds. Darkness crawled across everything, flattening colors, swallowing details, turning the world into an old charcoal sketch. Rowan's ears rang with the echo of the howl. "I think the curse grows stronger the closer we get to the heart of the forest," Mira whispered. "Or we get weaker." "Don't talk like that." Another gust of wind passed. No, not wind. Something moving. Something large. Mira grabbed his sleeve. "Did you hear that?" "I heard it. I just really wish I hadn't." A pair of glowing amber eyes appeared between the trees. Rowan froze. The wolf stepped out, but something was wrong. Its shadow stretched too long behind it, bending in ways a shadow shouldn't. Its fur shimmered like ash blowing away from a fire. And its movements were jerky, unnatural, as if something was pulling it forward like a puppet. Rowan grabbed Mira and pulled her behind a fallen log. "Stay low," he whispered. The wolf sniffed the air. Its head twitched toward them. Rowan held his breath. But the wolf did not attack. Instead, it tilted its head and stared at Rowan as though studying him, or recognizing him. A crack of ice burst in Rowan's mind. A memory not his own. A woman screaming in an ancient village. A mirror shattering under moonlight. A wolf ripping itself apart under a curse that should have died centuries ago. A boy, his face, being pulled out of the wolf's broken reflection. Rowan gasped, clutching his head. Mira grabbed him. "Rowan, what is it?" He couldn't answer. The wolf stepped closer, its eyes bright and burning. Its mouth opened and a voice, layered with 1,000 years of sorrow, rose from its throat. "Give back what you took." Myra's breath hitched. "Rowan, it's speaking." Rowan shook his head, backing away. I didn't take anything." The wolf's head jerked violently. "Your reflection, your shadow, your soul, stolen by the mirror, given to the creature within." The creature. The half-woman, half-beast face he had seen staring at him from the mirror's surface. Mira whispered, "Rowan, what if that creature isn't just haunting the forest? What if it wants to replace you?" The wolf snarled, not out of anger but out of pain. "The curse burns, the forest remembers, you must return what is lost." Its broken voice rasped. Rowan stepped closer despite Myra's desperate grip. "Oh, how do I return it?" The wolf collapsed, panting, trembling like it was being crushed from the inside. Its shadow kept moving even while the wolf couldn't. With its final strength, it lifted its head and whispered, "Follow the face that is not yours." Then the wolf disintegrated, not into dust, not into fog, but into black ash that drifted upward like reverse snowfall, sucked into the air until nothing was left. Mira stumbled backward. "Rowan, that wasn't a normal wolf. It was part of the curse." Rowan nodded slowly, staring at his hands. He looked almost transparent around the edges. Mira saw it too. Her face went pale. "Rowan, your body?" He held up his hand. The fingertips shimmered as if made of reflected moonlight instead of flesh. "My reflection isn't just missing," he whispered. "It's leaving me." A violent wind tore through the forest then, blowing leaves in spinning circles, howling like a ghosted storm. The trees bent inward, branches reaching like claws. The forest wanted him. The creature wanted him. His own reflection wanted to replace him. Mira grabbed his hand tightly. "Don't let go of me. Whatever happens." Rowan swallowed hard. "I won't." But the wind laughed, and the forest breathed. And somewhere in the distance, a woman's voice, soft, beautiful, and human, called his name. Rowan. The voice was his reflections. The voice drifted through the trees again, soft, melodic, and horribly familiar. Rowan. Rowan felt the sound slide under his skin like cold water. He squeezed Myra's hand tighter, grounding himself. But even her warmth felt distant now, like he was holding her through a layer of glass. They stood very still, listening. No wind. No birds. No movement except the trembling of Rowan's half-fading fingers. Mira whispered, "She's calling you." The creature. Rowan swallowed. Calling or luring? Myra's grip tightened. "We're not going toward her." "We don't have a choice," Rowan said quietly. "If she has my reflection, she has part of me. And she's not returning it willingly." A faint glow flickered between the trees, silver like moonlight bouncing off a lake. But the air was dry. No water nearby. Rowan knew what it was. A mirror. His mirror. The one that stole his reflection. Mira noticed him staring at the glow. "Rowan, please tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking." He took a step forward. "We go to it. Carefully. Quietly. And we don't touch anything." "Rowan, that mirror already broke once. It shouldn't even exist. It's cursed. Cursed things don't follow normal rules." Mira cursed under her breath. "I hate this forest." They moved toward the silver glow. Each step felt heavier, the ground softer, until the moss felt like wet lungs beneath their boots. The forest grew colder, the trees thinning until they reached a clearing Rowan had never seen before. At the center of the clearing stood a tall standing mirror, its frame carved from twisted black roots, moving ever so slightly as if breathing. The glass rippled like stirred water, and standing in front of it was her. Rowan froze. Mira inhaled sharply. "Oh God." The creature turned. She had Rowan's face, but not exactly. Her version was smoother, perfect, a cruel imitation crafted from moonlit glass. Her eyes glowed with faint silver light. Her body, half woman, half something feral, was draped in long strands of shadow that behaved like fabric. Her smile was slow. Wrong. Too wide. "Hello, Rowan." Hearing his voice come from her mouth almost made him collapse. "No," Mira whispered. "No, no, no. That's not you." The creature's silver eyes slid toward Mira. "You should take care, girl. He's slipping away. Soon he won't be able to hold your hand, or anything else." Rowan saw it too, his outline flickering, his form dimming. "Mira," he whispered, "stay behind me." Mira stepped forward instead, anger flooding her face. "Give him back." The creature tilted her head. "Which part?" Rowan could barely breathe. "My reflection. You stole it." "I didn't steal it," she said sweetly. "You offered it." "That's a lie." "You looked into the mirror," she said, stepping closer. "You wished to know the truth of the curse, and so your image followed me home." Rowan's voice cracked. "Why?" The creature blinked slowly. When she opened her eyes again, silver tears slid down her cheek, glowing as they dripped onto the ground, burning tiny holes into the moss. "Because," she whispered, "I was lonely." Myra's jaw clenched. "You could have taken anything else. Why him?" The creature looked at Rowan with something like longing. "Because he resembles the first bearer of the curse. The one who condemned me. The one whose face I can never forget." She stepped closer. Rowan stepped back. "Don't come any closer." But she didn't stop. Her voice softened into something almost pleading. "Rowan, you don't understand what it feels like to be trapped without a face. For centuries. Watching the world change while I remain frozen in a shape half borrowed, half broken." Rowan's breath shook. "I'm sorry. But that doesn't give you the right to steal mine." She smiled a gentle, awful smile. "I wasn't stealing. I was completing myself. And you," she reached a shadowy hand toward him. "You are completing your destiny." Mira stepped in front of Rowan, furious. "Back off." The creature stopped, annoyed. "You speak too much, girl. And you talk like a villain," Mira shot back. "So get to the point." The creature's eyes flashed violently. "Very well." She pointed at Rowan with a trembling hand. You are not dying, she whispered. You're being replaced. Rowan felt the words hit him like a punch. His entire body flickered, torso blurring into smoky translucence. Mira screamed, Rowan? He staggered, falling to one knee. His voice wavered like an echo. Mira, I feel empty. The creature moved closer, delighted. Your reflection is stronger than you now. She is becoming the real one. Mira pulled Rowan back, tears forming. Stay with me. Look at me. But Rowan couldn't focus. The mirror was pulling him, calling him, dragging him toward its glass like gravity. The creature extended her arms in welcome. Come home, Rowan. Let the reflection finish what it began. The mirror glowed brighter, the forest dimming around it. Mira grabbed Rowan's face with both hands. Listen to me. Stay here. Don't go to her. Her voice cracked. She never sounded so scared. Rowan tried to speak, but his voice came out as a whisper of two tones overlapping. One his, one hers. I'm losing myself. The creature smiled wider than humanly possible. Yes, she whispered. Come be mine again. The mirror's surface rippled violently, and Rowan's body began sliding toward it as if pulled by invisible chains. Mira screamed and held him, but her hands passed through his shoulders like fog. No, Rowan. He reached toward her, but half of his arm vanished into light. Mira, help me. The creature whispered. Let him go. Rowan felt himself being pulled, piece by piece, into the glowing mirror. His hand had already disappeared past the surface, swallowed by rippling silver. His voice trembled, split between two tones, one human, one something else. Mira, don't let me go. She grabbed his other arm, the only solid part left, her fingers digging desperately into him. I'm not losing you, she cried. Not to her, not to that thing, not after everything. But Rowan's body flickered like a dying lantern flame. His legs dissolved into drifting strands of lig. The forest around them dimmed as though night swallowed even the moon. Behind him, the creature, his reflection twisted into a half-woman, half-shadow form, waited with her arms gently open as if inviting a child home. Rowan, she whispered in his voice, come rest. You've carried your curse long enough. Mira spit the words out like venom. You don't care about him. You only care about taking his life so you can feel real. The creature turned slightly, offering Mira an almost pitying look. Child, there are truths older than your heartbeat. I do not want Rowan's life. She stepped closer. The air grew colder. I want his existence. Mira snarled. Over my dead body. The creature's smile stretched unnaturally. That can be arranged. She raised her hand and Rowan screamed. The silver from the mirror shot upward like lightning, wrapping around him, dragging more of him inside. His chest, shoulders, and half his face dissolved into shimmering particles. Mira, please. She lunged forward, gripping his jaw with both hands, forcing him to look at her. Rowan, stay with me. Stay right here. Her words echoed. For a moment, he stabilized, flickering less violently as if her voice was anchoring him. The creature hissed, enough. She gestured, and shadows rushed at Mira like a gust of cold wind. They wrapped around her wrists, trying to pry her off him. Mira screamed but didn't let go. No, I'm not losing him. The shadows tightened until a deep, resonant sound boomed through the forest. A low, ancient, vibrating hum. The creature froze. Mira opened her eyes through her pain. What is that? Rowan's remaining eye widened. He recognized it. The dwarf's charm. The tiny iron medallion the dwarf had pressed into Rowan's hand days earlier now glowed on the ground, right beneath the mirror. It pulsed like a heart. Each pulse sent shockwaves through the clearing. The creature's face twisted in horror. No, he told you? He awakened the seal? Mira blinked in confusion. What seal? Rowan gasped, voice half echo. The dwarf, told me to use it only at the moment I'm being replaced. The creature howled in fury, her voice splitting into a chorus of shrieks. You fool. That seal doesn't protect you, it binds me. The medallion pulsed again, and suddenly, the mirror cracked. A deep fracture split straight down its center, glowing white-hot. The forest trembled. The creature's form began to distort, her perfect half-human face melting into her original ancient shape, a rotting wolfish skull wrapped in shadow. Mira stumbled backward as the creature convulsed. Rowan, half inside the mirror, felt the pull weaken. Mira, pull. She grabbed his remaining arm with both hands and yanked with everything she had, her muscles shaking, breath ragged. The creature shrieked, stumbling toward them. No, he is mine. He is mine. But she couldn't reach them. Her body was already being dragged back toward the mirror by ropes of glowing cracks wrapping around her like chains. Rowan's shoulder popped free of the mirror's surface, the silver detaching with a painful tear. He collapsed onto Mira, half-conscious. The creature clawed at the ground as she was pulled into the cracking glass. "Rowan, without a reflection you'll never be whole. You will." Her sentence ended in a soundless gasp as she was consumed. The mirror imploded. Not shattered, collapsed inward like everything inside it was swallowed by a black hole. Then the whole structure dissolved into dust that drifted upward and vanished into nothing. Silence. Rowan lay trembling in Myra's arms, barely breathing. His outline flickered, then slowly began to solidify. His skin gained color. His hands regained weight. His reflection, long stolen, finally returned to him. Mira let out a shaky breath, tears spilling freely. "Rowan. Rowan, look at me." He lifted his head, exhausted but alive. I'm here." You almost vanished," she whispered, hugging him so tightly he winced. "Don't ever scare me like that again." He managed a small, tired smile. "I'll try." They sat there for a long moment, holding each other in the fading moonlight. Then Rowan whispered, "It's over." Mira shook her head softly. "No, it's not." She looked at the spot where the mirror once stood. The dust hadn't fully disappeared. It was collecting again. Slowly swirling. Slowly forming a shape. Rowan's breath hitched. "She's regenerating?" Myra's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. "Rowan, I think she's coming back." The dust pulsed in the air like a heartbeat. The forest darkened. Rowan pulled Mira close. "This isn't over," he said, voice trembling.